This is the Dr. Chris Radio Horror Show with a tribute to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I wanted to do this back over the summer when Steve Ditko passed away, but I couldn't find the right words. And now that we have lost Stan Lee, it might be time. Two of the characters I love the most that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created were the Amazing Spider-Man and the Master of the Mystic Arts, Doctor Strange. Steve was the artist who created these characters, and Stan, of course, was the writer. There might have been other people involved. Jack Kirby supposedly has been involved with the creation of Spider-Man as well, cover design for Amazing Fantasy 15. But we're going to focus on Steve and Stan. Not only did he create the characters of Spider-Man, but also everyone associated with Spider-Man that most people are familiar with the exception of Venom, Black Cat, the Hobgoblin, and a couple others. Hammerhead, Tombstone. Most of the Rogue Gallery, such as Dr. Octopus, the Chameleon, the Vulture, the Lizard, Kraven the Hunter, Mysterio, Electro, not the Rhino, and of course Doctor Strange with his cast of characters: Dormammu, Clea, the Ancient One, Wong, Nightmare. Steve Ditko's artwork was so weird and unusual for the time in the 1960s. It perfectly matched what was going on in the 60s. If you look at the way he drew Doctor Strange, like when he met the living embodiment of the universe, Eternity, it's definitely out there. Extremely weird. And with Spider-Man, the way he had Spider-Man move, the way he had Spider-Man look, it was nothing short of amazing. One of the first images of a Spider-Man comic book I ever saw, outside of anything to do with cartoons or media at the time in the 80s, when I first was introduced to Spider-Man, was a few panels from Amazing Spider-Man number 3, the first appearance of Otto Octavius, a.k.a. Dr. Octopus. Of course, people nowadays probably know him as Superior Octopus, Superior Spider-Man, during the Spider event saga called Spider-Verse. But Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, was very much like in shadow, and the explosion that created him, just the style of the panels and everything, and Spider-Man peering in the window and seeing Dr. Octopus talking to the people that he had captured was so unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it as a child, and years later I would come to learn who the artist was Steve Ditko. Now, Steve Ditko and Stan Lee had a big falling out, supposedly over the identity of the Green Goblin, a big character that they created together around Amazing Spider-Man number 14, I believe. And they had introduced Norman Osborn in one of the final issues of Steve Ditko's run. I don't know the true story behind it. You could probably leave a comment about it below. Steve would return years later and help create characters like Captain Universe and Squirrel Girl. And Stan, of course, who doesn't know Stan Lee and what hasn't been said about Stan Lee? I mean, if you've seen any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies or any Marvel comic film in general, Stan Lee has made a cameo appearance. You always know him as that old guy with a quick line. But Stan Lee, of course, was responsible for creating the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, bringing back Captain America, the Hulk, Daredevil, the Inhumans, well, Black Panther, and the list goes on and on and on. Also a character with Pamela Anderson called Stripperella. Very, very weird. I just wanted to share some of my memories of Steve Ditko and Stan Lee, the parents of Spider-Man. When Steve Ditko died, I was pretty touched. I never met the man, and I had opportunities to meet Stan Lee, but I always passed him up, just due to financial reasons. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't own comic books that they created. And Steve Ditko, his art style, really influenced me as a comic book collector. And Stan Lee, I mean, touched all of us in so many ways. Everything that they created, especially Stan Lee, influenced so many people. Thanks, everybody.